Wolf Pack, what is going on? It's your boy, the Wolf of Roto Street, rotostreetjournal.com. We breed and feed fantasy wolves here with kind of an emergency big board update because holy shit, Antonio Gibson, folks, is going to the moon. It's Labor Day weekend. It's the most popular draft day weekend, and some huge bombs are dropping. So we're going to update the big board, the rankings live here, and talk about some of these huge developments, but none bigger than Adrian Peterson being released kind of shockingly Monday morning. So let's dig right in. I've kind of updated my rankings last night thinking they were all set, ready to go for Labor Day weekend. So we'll review some other fallouts I did last night, but live right here, I have not re-ranked Antonio Gibson, and we're going to show you now, I'll bring in the big board, where he lands. Honestly, I don't even know how high I'm going to give him, but let's talk about these implications. AP in his release says they wanted a guy, quote, and my new favorite word of all time, pony style, that catches the ball. And the exact quote's on my Twitter. Feel free to check it out. They love Antonio Gibson. He's a hell of an athlete, and he's just the guy. AP openly admitting in his release that Antonio Gibson's the guy. And this offense is absurd. It's Scott Turner, falling from the Norv Turner tree where they just pepper their backs. Look at Christian McCaffrey, obviously an unworld talent. Of course you're going to pepper him. But even before him, like Lamont Jordan and, Chris Ogbenaya in Cleveland, nobody's would get peppered with like 100+ targets. So now you give Antonio Gibson, they go out and target this guy despite having a crowded running back room, and they release AP, their heartbeat, their leader, just because he wasn't as much of a schematic fit. He's been running with the ones. The QBs, quote unquote, had him on speed dial for how much they were peppering this guy. So let's find out where we're going to slot him in, because ultimately all the puff was there. And we've been banging this drum. It's not all that unique in the industry. A lot of people have been banging the drum, but man, I've been telling people around 8, by round 9, do not let this guy slip. I love how Scott Barrett, he calls it a reach around. 100%. He was a reach around guy. Ultimately, I did 0 RB the other day after Saquon Barkley took Antonio Gibson. Didn't love my team. Now I feel like it's going to the moon. So where would this guy slide in? I mean, it's between him and Cam Akers at this spot. Honestly, I'd rather have him than Gurley, even though it's probably price-wise going to not shake out that way. I'd almost rather have Cam Akers than Gurley. I'd rather have Antonio Gibson than Gurley. And I know I might just be rookie fever, rookie high, but I'm telling you, this guy is going to the moon. 4.39 40 at 228 pounds, just a monster athlete, broke like 33 tackles on 71 touches. I don't get why he didn't get the ball more, but it sounds like everything is going to be Antonio Gibson. Again, emphasized none more than the release of Adrian Peterson. So ultimately, a huge news. As Tunenberg saying, I bet you that the release of Gibson is a decent RB2 now, at least. Yeah, upside RB2 in my opinion, because the reception, especially PPR wise, the reception upside. So I hope you guys enjoyed the discount. Ultimately, the one negative to come from this is I no longer can get this guy in round 10, round 11, which is too bad. But man, he's going to explode this year. Love this news for Antonio Gibson. I think he becomes a lock target. Let's show you where that ends up. That's in running back rankings, right around 18, 19 for me. Leaps into my top 20 running backs, no doubt about it. Let's look at where he ends up going overall now. Cam Akers, and I tweeted out recently, Cam Akers is that guy that you pass him on round 4, and then round 5, you think he's going to fall to you, and he doesn't. You just scream into the air, motherfucker. Those picks, right? That's Cam Akers for me, and I don't want to keep missing this guy. So it's a matter of do I take him above DK? I think so, because running backs are so valuable. I won't bump Gibson above him, but I do think that, right around this Chark, Keenan Allen range, maybe I'm going crazy. Let me know if you guys think I'm insane, but I'm telling you, that's how much upside this guy now has with Adrian Peterson gone. Would not hesitate to pull that late 4th, early 5th round trigger. The only, again, negative is you were able to get him in round 9 and 10 before. Have him on every single best ball I think I've done because of that. sad to know that that price won't last. The other fallout from this, and you got to re-rank, is Bryce Love, who was reportedly on the roster bubble, and AP was reportedly supposed to be the heartbeat. So I guess that's just a reminder too, like, don't take what these reporters are saying for 100% truth. We have to eat them with a little bit of a grain of salt and just follow the actions. But Bryce Love clearly was not on the roster bubble. I don't know what's up with that tier. And Anthony McFarland in his own tier. What the hell? Sometimes this tool gets a little wonky here. But Bryce Love, definitely in the mix now for early down work. I think we have to, as gross as it is, bump up Peyton Barber now into consideration because they cut AP in favor of him. They cited him as a reason. Barber is a little more versatile, I guess. I mean, useless player. But Bryce Love definitely gets some appeal. I would definitely have him over Damien Harris. We're going to talk about him in a little bit. Darrell Henderson at this point, he doesn't belong up there. He hasn't practiced, still hasn't practiced. It's the Cam Akers show there, so he needs to keep going down. I think Bryce Love will comfortably slide in like right into this area. I'll keep him in this tier. Exciting talent in college. Let's see if he's fully healthy. Was a monster after McCaffrey there at Stanford. So ultimately, he's the guy that could be more of the early down workhorse, whereas Gibson just moves all over the field. I still think it's just the Gibson show. And this also sneakily, it's weird to say here, but does this also signal just a slight uptick for Dwayne Haskins? I mean, nobody talks about him having any upside, and ultimately he might not, but this guy was a beast at Ohio State. And you get this sense that they're crafting this offense to be very, upbeat. They certainly can't be worse than last year, the fifth worst amount of plays run in a single season of the last 20 years, the fewest. Ridiculous. So Scott Turner comes in, that Norv Turner system, and again, 132 targets to the running backs on average, around 32% market share. They love just peppering the backs, and the Panthers were first in pace last year. So you definitely expect that to just naturally take a huge step forward, is the amount of plays run, the pace they push. And now this kind of signals, maybe it is just going to be kind of a shotgun like dink, shotgun dunk. It could be one of those things. The reason the arguments we all love Teddy Bridgewater, right, is the weapons and the high percentage completions. Could that be Dwayne Haskins? I mean, I don't really want Kirk Cousins. We know what that's going to be, a run-happy, play action-based attack. I think I can bump Dwayne Haskins a little bit up in the mindset that this offense is just going to be a yak creating machine. Ultimately, I have way more faith in Teddy Bridgewater. You can see I have him here at 15. I love that guy. But I think Haskins needs to be talked about a little bit more as having actually some juice for like super flex leagues. Again, you're probably not drafting him in a single QB league. Let's be real here. But super flex we're talking, or like those real deep, like, FPPCs. You're going, 25 rounds and you don't have a backup. Like, I think there could be a little bit of sneaky juice to Dwayne Haskins. Tell me if I'm insane here. And the last question, you obviously got to bang AP a little bit because he looked like he was going to be the early down back and at least be a bet for 200-ish carries, some goal line work. Now we have no idea where he's going to go. I wouldn't say he's completely worthless, though, because he says, I want to sign with a contender. At this point, I don't really care what my role is other than just getting to a contender and someone that wants to have me, that values my type of presence. We know the Patriots were interested just a couple off seasons ago. He's that type of veteran stabilizer, which, again, another reason to be down on Damien Harris. We'll cover why we're even lower in a second. But what if AP lands there? I mean, he could realistically emerge from this offseason as the starter for the Patriots with Cam Newton, a ground and pound. Like, you could see those guys just thriving. That veteran type of chemistry, that bounce back, like, stick it to our former teams mentality. I could see the Patriots sneakily getting involved. And if they do, there's going to be some upside to AP. Now, we can't play the hypothetical game and keep him above guys we know have some upside, like Adrian Peterson. I mean, like Tony Pollard, like Tyrell Williams. But again, if AP lands in New England, which, is not without the realm of possibilities. We heard they were kicking the tires around on Fournette a little bit. I imagine he's going to sign for a veteran discount to just get with a chance to win a title. AP in New England could be a sneaky value there. So that's ultimately my fallout from all this crazy Adrian Peterson releases. Let's get back to a couple of your questions. The next thing we will cover is Leonard Fournette to the Bucs and what to make of that backfield. But first, let's see what we got here. The fantasy world is on fire. Absolutely is. Good to see you, Geckel. Love seeing the people show up. I like Haskins, just not this year. I still think he needs a full season where he's the number one to show he truly knows the system and can perform. Yeah, I mean, it's not like I'm like, oh, you've got to go out and get Haskins. Just saying in deeper leagues, he's a guy to keep an eye on. What do you make of Samuel reports that he hasn't had a good camp? I still buy the player, the talent. I don't know that I want to just throw him out because of one beat writer's, opinion of him. It is concerning though if Robbie Anderson's thriving and all the other weapons are getting these glowing reviews and he's not. I do question why not. What's the deal with Curtis Samuel? So he is somebody that I might bump down a couple spots. I had him right up there with like the most upside. Why don't we go to Curtis Samuel now? I had him up there with like the highest of the upside bench guys, the McCole Hardmans. I think I did give him quite a little bit of a bump down. And those of you that are on Facebook, if you don't mind liking and sharing, helping us get seen by a few more, same on Twitter, any retweets or shares or any of that stuff, always greatly appreciated to help us out on a Friday before your big draft. So where did I have Curtis Samuel falling out? I have him at 56, so I did bump him down below like the Edwards, the Shenaults. Definitely some guys I ultimately feel a little stronger about at this point than Curtis Samuel. It's hopefully it works out. The system should be tailor-made to him, speed and space, but we'll see. I wish my main league draft was last weekend. Could have gotten GIBSON in the 8th, 9th. I've gotten him in the 8th and 9th, every draft. But even, RJ Newell, great to see you. Thanks for always tuning in. Get him in the 6th would still be great value. Like I said, I have him in the 4th, 5th range now. If you go, this is the type of guy, like you could go running back early, Christian McCaffrey. You don't love those like third round guys, Connor. I love Taylor personally, but if you don't, you go receiver, Kelsey. Maybe even you take the shot at Lamar. I still don't think you go quarterback early, but Gibson's going to make it you able to get that nice upside RB2 in round 5 alongside Cam Akers. That's why I think you could go receiver in 2, 3. I don't like it. I still love Pepper and bell cows if they fall, the right ones. I'm just saying if you're at the top of the draft and those like top 14 are all gone, maybe you do hammer Kelsey in a receiver because you could still get Akers and Gibson on the 4 or 5 turn there. That's where I would be looking in a lot of drafts. Let's get now though to the Leonard Fournette fallout and kind of show you where this news leads. So we ultimately, I don't know what to make of this Bucs backfield, right? Like who does? They keep saying Ronald Jones is the guy, but they've said that all offseason and they brought in the corpse of LaShawn McCoy. They brought in a Leonard Fournette that not even the Jags wanted. Ronald Jones is clearly not the guy. If you feel he's the guy, why do you keep bringing in these teams that nobody else wants, these players no one else wants? So you got Fournette. Like if I was going to stick my flag into one of the two, I like Fournette better. I think he's just a better player, a better pure power runner. I think he's going to be motivated on a 1-year prove-it deal. I think he can just do more than Ronald Jones. He wasn't an efficient receiver, but he can pass protect. He's actually pretty bad at pass protection according to Pro Football Focus. So I don't like really either of these guys. But if there's one of the two, I think Fournette's the one that ends up with the higher touchdown equity. Just a gut feeling that there hasn't been any reports yet to suggest that. He hasn't even been with the team yet. But ultimately, I think I'd rather have Fournette on my team than Ronald Jones. Let's just put it that way. So Ronald Jones, despite their insistence, he's the guy. I dropped him down to running back 39. I still think I'm a little too high on Fournette here. I'd rather have Latavius Murray for reasons we'll discuss shortly. Ultimately, I'm just targeting that passing game. That's all I want. And speaking of that passing game, I'm going to show you guys something I did. A little bit of controversy on Twitter yesterday over this tweet. Mike Evans over Godwin. Time to adjust the rankings. Let me know if you think I'm absolutely psycho for that. I get the original thought of logic here is Godwin, slot receiver, fits that bigger Julian Edelman, that guy that Brady's going to thrive with over the intermediate range and all that good stuff. Loved it. I bought into it. Godwin was higher for me. Ultimately, Godwin's got some mysterious injury. He's back, but I don't know if he's gotten a full practice in. In the meantime, we got Brady and Evans just lighting up Bucs camp. Every day there's some tweet about a highlight play between these two. So Brady's, as a New England fan, I've seen this guy for so long. He's so big on trust. Anybody, even if you're not a New England fan, everybody knows that. Like you need to have Tom Brady's trust to succeed with this guy. That's not saying Godwin's not good enough to earn that trust within 2 days. Like he's great. Godwin's a great player. I only dropped him one spot, but I dropped him below Mike Evans because they've had time to forge that chemistry. Well, Brady can't throw the deep ball. Look at it. Brady didn't have anybody to throw the deep ball to. Just because he didn't throw the deep ball, because the play calling was so much more about short intermediate stuff, it doesn't mean he can't. I think part of why, and there were quotes about why he left to go to Tampa Bay, is Bruce Arians is all about airing it out. And I think Brady wants to show, I still got it. That's why he picked a team that's going to let him go deep, that has the weapons to let him go deep, because he wants to show I'm 43 and I'm still one of the GOATs. And I think he really well could. So I love Brady. I still think he's going to have a monster season and is one of the best values as a round 10 quarterback. I love taking that jump. But the fact that him and Evans have routinely dominated day in and day out makes me think this is the guy that I'd rather have. It's like that, Randy Moss style player, though. We've seen Brady thrive with him, and Gronk saying this guy's roping the ball harder than he did by rookie year. Never mind that 2011 when Moss just went insane. So I think Evans has a lot of underrated, like if one of them was going to blow the fuck up, I think it's Evans. And I like Godwin. I still think he could be a very steady heartbeat. The other concern, though, is, right, they've talked a lot about using 2 tight end sets, that Scotty Miller is really thriving in the slot. Now, again, I got a lot of backlash, like, why would you move Godwin out of the slot? He was so fucking good. I'm not saying Godwin wasn't. He was a monster. He's a beast. Anyone with eyes saw how good this guy was. It's more that Godwin can also win outside, and they don't have anybody else right now that they're feeling good about outside, but they have a guy, Scotty Miller, who is doing well on the inside game. So it's out of need more so than out of a lack of respect or performance for Godwin that they're moving him outside. And now if they're both just outside guys, these twin towers, Evans and Godwin, I'm leaning the guy that's just dominated there all of his careers, 1,000 straight yards in 6 straight seasons. Only Randy Moss has done that. So maybe that comparison isn't that crazy. So ultimately, that's a lot to talk about for like one position switch, Evans and Godwin. But it's a big one because a lot of you guys at the top of your drafts are going to have to make that decision. Let me know if you think I'm insane for what I've done. But I am now leaning Evans over Godwin in fantasy drafts. Let's now get back. I got some comments on that, so we'll see. Yeah, Tony Gibson, we just talked about him. Ridiculous upside now. Gibson in my dynasty, loving the Peterson drop. I love it, though. I totally agree that the fact that they just committed to this guy so early, danger close, is like, even in dynasty, they're thinking about this guy as their foundational back. If they're crafting the offense around him, at least they're going to give him a shot to show if he can do it. And that's going to be this year. And if he does perform, like what if he becomes their 3-down horse of the next 5 years? You got yourself one of the highest potential upside picks. I love it. I'm not saying the guy's Christian McCaffrey, but that's the type of offense this is. What if they use him in a Christian McCaffrey light style role? It would be insane. And someone dropped Gibson last night. That's ridiculous. I think this is, again, now a 4th or 5th round pick. To me, and I hate to have you blow your load and then have very minimal funds for the rest of the season, but when does a 4th or 5th round style pick get available in a fantasy league on the waiver wire? I think you have to blow the load here and just make sure you get it. Now, if it gives it so you cannot make a single move, I don't know if you're one of those leagues that once you run out of money, you can't do anything. You got to save at least, $10-12 for those emergency kicker or defense pickups. But this is the type of guy that comes around once in a lifetime if he's on your waiver wires. And there is the risk he ends up being nothing because who knows why he didn't touch the ball in college. But to have AP say they're crafting this offense around him pony style. I'm going to try to say pony style as many times as I freaking can during this broadcast. Pony style, Antonio Gibson. AP got cut because they wanted to craft this offense around him. Like to me, he's the type of guy that you have to go all in on. J-Rock, thanks for that. The Hard Work channel will grow. That's the goal, man. If you got anybody you're not competing against and think about, sharing with us, that would be great. Just share us out. I appreciate you liking the content, man. Did you read Brady singing Scott Miller's praises? So talking about those guys for the Bucs, saying he's trustworthy, a hard worker, not saying draft him, but a guy, yeah, definitely someone to flag for your watch list. And if you are in those PPR, a DraftKings best ball, right, that goes 20 rounds and you're looking for a late round flyer, like there's going to be weeks Scotty Miller catches 5-6 balls. If he is truly the slot guy, a chain mover for them, there's a scenario where he catches 70, 80 balls in the season. And unlikely when you have 2 towers like Evans and Godwin, but Is that ceiling there? Yeah. So, I mean, I think he's definitely a guy to consider there. All in on Tony Gibbs. Yeah, like blowing 75%. I'd say 80. Like, make sure you get him. Don't just freaking get him. Putting A-Rob up there behind Kelsey and Kittle, definitely good eyeballs there, Jake Knight. Thanks for tuning in, man. Yes, I mean, I love Allen Robinson. I don't have him like right up there. You think I should put him up there? I mean, maybe. I wouldn't. I don't know. I like him where I have him. And I still have him higher than the consensus at 27. He's the ideal round 3 guy. I don't know if you guys saw our broadcast on Tuesday with Scott Barrett and Graham Barfield, one of the best probably the best live broadcast. And then we had Harditz right after. So back-to-back great live broadcast. Tough to say one's better than the other. They're both fantastic, but that was a fantastic show. And Barfield was all in on A-Rob, saying he might finish as the number 2 wide receiver in fantasy, thinks he might lead the league in targets. And why not, especially with Montgomery now out. I love A-Rob. Do I move him up here? If any of these guys were going to break into this tier, like maybe he belongs, because you know what? I am against going quarterback early, and I did it the other day. Thank God Antonio Gibson's bailing me out now as my RB2, because now my team's going to be freaking ridiculous. I'll share that one out maybe at the end of the broadcast. But yeah, I can see it. I can see that. You know what? I like A-Rob. The more I talk about him, the more I fall in love. Is Damien Harris an okay waiver pickup when he gets healthy? Maybe. And I think that's a good one, a good transition here. Why don't we talk about Damien Harris and what's happened here? So he's got a broken pinky. I mean, what the fuck? A broken pinky? Right now, he's steamrolling ahead, stealing the number 1 job, the most impressive player in camp outside maybe Cam Newton. Everybody's singing the guy's praises. Belichick praising his versatility. Like, he's labeled the clear, far ahead number 1 guy, and then he breaks his fucking pinky. And now Sony Michel is looking light and explosive in camp. And who knows if Damien Harris is going to be available week 1. And the reason I liked Harris is the versatility he brings. If he had truly separated, he has more pass-catching prowess than freaking Sony Michel, one-dimensional offense. James White, you know what's happening when he's in. It's passing. He's great. But Damien Harris is good at both. So he gave this offense another dimension. And I think long-term, if anybody's going to, emerge as that true 3-down guy, it still would be Harris. But it seemed to me like he had it. It was his to lose. And he's probably going to lose it now because he's not available week 1. That gives Michelle some time against the fucking Dolphins too, nonetheless, to look impressive. And when he returns, he's probably now returning to the gross, unpredictable Patriots committee. No longer will have that goal line roll, that early down roll on block. And the reason that I loved him was I thought he was the man there. So he's ultimately fallen quite a bit. I had him right up here with Zach Moss, David Montgomery. Like, I was all about him. He was the guy I couldn't leave round 9 without, round 10 after Antonio Gibson, of course. But, right after him was Damien Harris for me. Now it's like, Chris Thompson, what are you doing up here? That's gross. He's kind of, I'd rather have these upside handcuffs, because what is he at this point? An upside handcuff, right? So ultimately, is he worth owning? Yeah. But to get your perspective, like, I dropped him for Bryce Love this morning, and I didn't really have any second regrets. So it's Harris. It sucks because, again, I've got him in every single draft at this point, around like round 9 or 10. I hate that I could have sunk it into somebody else, but I didn't mind the logic then. I don't hate it now, and it's just too bad. He's definitely a guy that took a huge stock down, because I think at best he returns to a crowded backfield, and he had ultimately almost created a separated one, which is too bad. Definitely too bad. And the last, not the last, but another quick note to cover is Alvin Kamara. Contract all set. Seems like they're headed the right way. He's back at practice. Good. Things are trending the right way positively. They're going to work together. It's not going to be a holdout. That's nice to know. That could have been panic mode, right? But he got an epidural in his back. Like, what's that about? Isn't that, how they numb some serious pain? Like, what's happening to him if he needs an epidural in his back? Then you got like the what? Then you got, the plant-based diet. You guys know I already hate plant-based diets. Ultimately, what's going on with this guy? Maybe I'm reading the wrong things, but shots in the back, like all this stuff. to me, it's like everybody has him at 4, and I'm like, there's just better prospects to take early on. I'd rather have something locked in like Henry or Dalvin Cook, or at this point, Joe Mixon with that contract. The coach is saying we used him the right way the second half of the season after their bye, where he was the running back 4 in fantasy, just most in rushing carries and touchdowns, like all that good stuff. Like Mixon, I'd rather have than Kamara at this point. Henry, Cook, and you guys know this, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been up there at 4, and I'm not switching that. At this point, the guys, the workhorse in a Mahomes-led offense. So there's all those guys I'd rather have. Like, you could consider Eckler, Drake if you're feeling worried about it. I might. Like, am I crazy? Maybe, but I'm worried about him. And in respect to that, in light of that, I think Latavius Murray. I want to show you where I've got him now. I'd rather have him than Swift. Like, if Murray, we saw when he was the starter last year, he averaged 34.5 points in PPR leagues. I mean, league changer if this guy gets more than 5 starts. He's going to win every week that he's in your starting lineup. So now in round 8, 9, where it was Antonio Gibson season, now it should be Latavius Murray season in round 8 and 9. Let's put Gibson up in round 4 and 5 and replace him with Latavius Murray in your round 9, 10. Damien Harris was there too. Like, it's Latavius Murray is the guy you want there, because if he does miss any time, ultimately, Alvin Kamara is so much riskier than I think. The upside, that role in the Saints offense is great, but all this stuff is leading to me believe he's not going to be that reliable, dependable guy we saw those first 2 years. He's going to want to light it up for his contract, but I'm off the Kamara train. If someone's going to bust in round 1, he's the one that I am most terrified of at this point. So Murray gets that nice bump up, and Kamara is becoming someone I just don't really want at this point. Maybe if Kamara ate a steak, he'd be better off. Agreed. In a crowded backfield, I don't know what you're referring to, J-Rock. Let me know. Drop Pittman or Josh Kelly or Herndon for Gibson. Any of them. I would drop all of them. I would drop all 3 if that meant I could get Gibson and lock him in. The one I would drop first is probably Pittman, just because I want to see with Josh Kelly, similar to what happened with Gibson today. Like, there is the chance Justin Jackson, tears his ACL or something crazy, and now suddenly Kelly's shooting to the moon. Like, of all these guys, that's the case. I love Pittman as a player. I'd be a little, and I like Herndon. So it depends to me, like, what your needs are, Andrew. Pittman to me seems like the least likely to end up panning out, because Paris Campbell's lighting it up. Nyheim Hines is lighting it up. Jack Doyle and the tight ends are lighting it up. And so is Pittman. But, like, is Phillip Rivers this good to sustain like 18 different freaking guys in one offense that's supposed to be as run heavy as possible? I can't imagine consistent, dependable passing game volume going to Pittman. I really only think T.Y. Hilton's the guy that week to week you can really rely on. DFS wise, Campbell, those guys are going to have when the opportunity's right, the game flows right. Hines, those guys are going to be quality DFS guys, but ultimately in the matchups against like the Jaguars week 1, where they're just going to run, steam you into the ground, I can't see you ever using these guys. So it's just going to be like up and down. So I'd say Pittman's probably the guy I drop first there. Drop Benny Snell, Damien Harris for Darrell Henderson. I don't necessarily see the reason. Is Henderson back? I'm not sure. Phil Rivers loves his wide receivers, though. He does, but like, again, Campbell and T.Y. Hilton, the main guy. Then you got Campbell. Then you got Pittman. Then you got the reliable Zach Pascal that's also making plays. And the talk is in camp is Rivers is peppering the running backs and tight ends more than anything else. So I don't know about that. Am I on the Van Jefferson hype train? I think it's a train to pay attention to in very deep leagues and best ball around 18, 19, sure. But, in your standard like 12-person, 16-teamer with home friends, I don't find myself landing him too often. It depends on the ultimate. And then, is Dobbins going to eat Geckel? Have you paid any attention to me, or do you just want to hear me wax poetic on J.K. Dobbins? Yes, of course he's going to eat. Definitely above Mostert. Freaking Bell. Fuck Bell. I don't want Bell. J.K. Dobbins is going to feast. Now, is Bell going to be more reliable from the start of the season? Probably. So, like, if you need a starter, I guess you got to go Bell. But Dobbins is going to absolutely eat I think it's, only a matter of time, and it might not be a very long time till he's that main guy. This is no disrespect to Ingram. I love Ingram. The heartbeat of that offense last year. I get big trust. Like he's well respected there. He's not just going to disappear. There's no way he's just going to disappear. But Dobbins might force him out eventually because he's just, I think, that much better of a player at this stage of their careers. So yes, I love myself some J.K. Dobbins. He's kind of like that. If I had my 3 running backs and my 3 receivers, I lock him into round 7. And even earlier, like, I can take him as my 3rd running back and put in a receiver for my flex for a couple weeks. Like, that's fine with me too. I need to own J.K. Dobbins in 2020 drafts, and especially in those leagues where you might have like one keeper, and he's the type of guy that, goes outside the top 30 running backs right now that ends up going top 10 next year. Kind of like Henry a few years ago. You took him in round like 7, just hoping a year would pass by and he'd finally take over, and now he's huge upside. But yes, this question, love this one. Antonio Gibson before Dobbins. I do at this point just because the sheer usability. I think right off the bat, Antonio Gibson is going to come out there and see 15 touches, 8 of them targets. So yeah, I think you got to have Gibson above Dobbins. In Dynasty, it's a little different. Definitely, I think Dobbins has the much safer Dynasty floor. I know Dobbins is going to be a beast. It's just a matter of when does the usage ultimately flow in. Whereas Gibson's the higher ceiling prospect, especially for redraft, but he's not a guarantee by any means. We don't know that he'll succeed. I know Dobbins is going to be a beast with the Ravens. It's just a matter of when does the work come in. Is it a year away? Who knows? Helping Kids with Online School must have missed it. Took Dobbins in the 9th last night. At 9th is ridiculous, Steel Geckel. I was just saying more if you watched anything this offseason. I've been raving about Dobbins. And yes, Dobbins is going to be a beast. But in redraft, I would 100% go Gibson over him. Some other news and notes. So we were talking about Fournette earlier. What's the impact on Jacksonville of him being gone? To me, it's Minshew time. People looking, was it going to be Ryquell Armstead? Is it going to be, Devin Ozugbo? All the reasons we were down on Fournette, calling him the fade of fantasy 2020 because of the Jaguar situation, all apply to now worse talents. Like they're not as good as Fournette, even if Fournette's the one getting released because of his locker room issues. This is Ryquell Armstead, who averaged 3.0 yards per carry last year. We're really going to sit here and get excited about him in a committee. No, thank you. I'm okay. Ultimately, I don't want any of the backfield. Let's be real here. It's going to be Thompson taking the receiving work. PPR leagues, okay, maybe Thompson has some upside. He's thrived under Jay Gruden in the past, but he also hasn't played more than 11 games since 2016. So there's that real injury risk, and he's starting to really get his price hiked up to where you could also have Jerick McKinnon. Give me McKinnon all day. Like, it's not even close to me for Thompson or McKinnon. And then there's like Devin Ozigbo. Yeah, maybe 20 rounder, like in your best ball. Sure. Because Ryquell's been missing practice, and maybe Ozigbo takes over. He's a big boy, got some speed to him. So, okay, like a last round flyer on a really RB needy team. Okay. But to me, the bigger impact here is on Minshew, on the QBs. Now, I have Minshew bumped up to 21. I could definitely consider him over Drew Lock. I mean, Ian Hartitz on our show said he thinks Minshew's that breakout, like top 10 potential guy. And I love that prediction because they're going to be hucking it. It's a Jay Gruden offense who loves to huck. They've gotten rid of that plodding style heartbeat. This defense is miserable. So they're going to be down constantly playing garbage time catch up. Think about the Dolphins of last year with that Minshew, that Ryan Fitzpatrick to Devontae Adams, just chuck. That's going to be Chark and Minshew this year. And Ryan Fitzpatrick, when he took over as the starter, was the number 3 quarterback in fantasy. Like, he put up some serious numbers. And the other guy, I want to make sure to highlight out of that. So I love Minshew. I love Chark. Very upside round 4 or 5 wide receiver pick is DJ Chark now. But I also got to make sure to highlight Laviska Shenault. Goes undrafted in most leagues. And he played Wildcat in college, moving around. Great receiver for the Buffs, really athletic freak, but also carried the ball plenty in short yardage. He was like their 3rd and 1 and their red zone hammer. He scored 7 rushing touchdowns. And even before Fournette was released, they were talking about Doug Marrone using this guy in the Wildcat, moving him all over to F tight end and split out wide. Just a versatile, jack of all trades. role. But ultimately, and this is the quote I love, is Trevor Sikkema came on our podcast. Make sure you listen to that one. The Rookie Wide Receivers podcast is so good with this guy. Sikkema just breaks him down so well. But he talked about Laviska Shenault. It's not one of those good things. It's like he's a jack of all trades, master of none. The guy is great at all of them. He just does so many things so well. It's not a matter of just being blah at a bunch of things. He thrives at so many, rushing the ball, catching it in contested situations, beating corners, beating safeties. The guy can do it all. And he's now potentially their main red zone back. Like, who says they don't just use him like the Colorado did? He's a player. This guy is a player on a team desperate for playmakers, desperate for some explosion to stay, in games with that horrible defense. I think we're going to see a lot of touches go to Laviska Shenault. He's kind of my favorite pick for, like, if there's a 2020 McLaurin, I think it's going to be Laviska. He's the guy I'm really leaning into here. Josh Kelly or Zach Moss. I go Moss there. Zach Moss is, all the talk is Singletary keeps fumbling in camp is less impressive than Zach Moss as a receiver up the middle. The beat writers are speculating there's going to be weeks where Zach Moss takes over and has that hot hand and becomes the main back. So to me, Singletary is probably the single biggest overpriced guy in fantasy right now. I will not touch Devin Singletary. Whereas Zach Moss, round 10, is awesome, a great value. I would load up on all the shares. I've had Gibson above him all offseason, so you're still going Gibson. But Zach Moss, has a great shot at being the starter, whereas Kelly could take over the 2 role behind Austin Eckler, which is going to be a valuable role. We saw, Melvin Gordon light style usage could be huge, especially touchdown upside. But Eckler's always going to be that number 1. So give me the guy Zach Moss who has the real chance to start and take over a backfield. And even if he doesn't, he's going to be in the Frank Gore role. That was like the 10th most red zone carries last year. Gore only scored 2 touchdowns on him, but Moss is a bull. If he gets that Frank Gore role, he's already providing value at his price. Now, if he takes over the starter's role, then you're gaining even 4 more rounds of value. So it's Zach Moss, and it's not really close for me, but that's where I go. Favorite later red zone RD targets for late round targets for QB and Superflex. I'm going my guy, Teddy Bridgewater. I can pull up the QB rankings to show, but he goes almost undrafted. Even in Superflex, he falls around like 12 often. And I love the guy. He's got yak monsters around him. He's in the Joe Brady scheme that uses yak monsters better than anybody that we saw with Joe Burrow last year. So Teddy Bridgewater at 15 for me. Defense that's always going to be giving up positive game scripts for this team. So I love me some Teddy Bridgewater. Their schedule's a joke. They're facing so many good offenses and bad defenses, just shootout after shootout. So even if this guy's not a thrilling guy himself, gunslinging Teddy, nobody's ever said, but Teddy Two Gloves is very accurate. They're saying in camp he's getting that ball out fast, getting it in stride so receivers can do their damage after the catch. And that's what this offense is all about. So I really like me some Teddy Bridgewater late. Galladay, Robinson, or Moore in PPR. I love all 3 of them, but I have Robinson a step above all those guys. I just think the target share, we saw him dominate last year, and there's nothing different about this year. If anything, contract year, like they want to pepper him even further with all the injuries and everything going around. But I love DJ Moore. All those reasons I just talked about for Love and Teddy, I'll definitely take the main vein outside of Christian McCaffrey of that passing game. Their rapport has reportedly been on fire, Bridgewater and DJ Moore. And now DJ Moore is raving about how like Bridgewater just gets it out to him like as he's in stride. So we might see an even more dangerous DJ Moore. Plus his deep ball skill set will be utilized better under Joe Brady. I'm a huge DJ Moore fan, but I'd rather have Allen Robinson. I like all that kind of tier of wide receivers though, for sure. I did something I said I'd never do, taking him in the 3rd, drafted Montgomery in the 8th. Oh, come on, Gecko. Get out of here. I don't even want to talk about that. That's sickening. Moss scares me. I've heard he's the highest injury risk player to be drafted. Why? I don't know what that would be. So catch me up on him. And I'll take one more question. We'll take more questions. Don't worry. We've already talked about these guys, but we'll jump back into them. Don't worry, guys. Hollywood Brown thoughts, though. I love Hollywood Brown, like six, sometimes even 7th rounder. I see him creeping in around 5 now, which I'd rather have Gibson. I'd rather have, obviously, Cam Akers. But I love Hollywood Brown. If I can get him as my wide receiver 3, I'll accept him as my 2 as well. But as a wide receiver 3, he's the type of guy that just erupts and ruins weeks for people. your opponent more likely, because he last year was getting separation at an elite level, and he was like 158 pounds, he said, and he had a screw in his foot, and less than 100% all year, and he still was gaining that separation. So now that he's gained 20 pounds of muscle, now he's got the screw out of his foot, everybody's saying he looks like a whole different guy. I can only imagine what a whole different guy looks like, because this guy looked like had the upside to already be the next Tyreek Hill. So is he now a Tyreek Hill style separator? Maybe. I love me some Marquise Brown. And Lamar Jackson already saying we want to throw the ball deep more. It's like how we could take our offense to the next step. So yeah, give me Hollywood Brown all day. I love the guy. Absolutely love the guy. And just check into the earlier part of the broadcast, but to sum it up, I love Antonio Gibson. It's his season. He's, going to absolutely light it up. They've said they want to ride him pony style. This offense was crafted to pass, throw to the running back. That Turner system has always, 132 targets on average to the running backs each year. So Gibson's about to light it up. They released Adrian Peterson, who's projected to be their starter because he didn't fit the system quite like Gibson, who's about to be peppered. You have to get yourself Antonio Gibson this year. I love that bet. 2,500 for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Why not, right? Take a stab. Worth a stab. I'm into it. I'm absolutely into it. So the last notes, we covered Harris falling. We covered that. I want to make sure, though, to talk about Preston Williams. Just unguardable in practice is all the rage these days. And I totally buy that. I mean, anytime you get 6'5", and making the contested balls and red zone and all that domination. I was talking about this in June, how this hype train was going to emerge. And here it comes, ladies and gentlemen. So I bumped him, I think, into my top 100 overall. If not, it's got to be damn close. Yeah, so Preston Williams, I would take over Jalen Reagor at this point. I'll even take over, some of these running backs right around that Deontay Johnson who's starting to emerge again range. I love the guy. You got, a Chan Gailey offense that just peppers those big bodies. Look at like the 2015 Jets, right? Their defense was horrible, so they had to just pepper. And I get the Dolphins made some nicer acquisitions, but that defense is going to suck. Let's be real here. And so playing catch-up mode, the quarterback was Ryan Fitzpatrick back in the day. Now it's Ryan Fitzpatrick again. Chan Gailey, the offensive coordinator, you saw what happened. Brandon Marshall had like 15 touchdowns, an absurd season, 1,500 yards, like 120 catches, ridiculous. But then Eric Decker also had like 12 touchdowns and 1,000 yards. So everybody's like, Parker and Preston can't both eat. I don't agree. I think both could definitely eat. And right now, Parker's out. He's been riding a bike for about a week. And what if Parker just kind of goes back to useless Parker? I've been preaching Parker all offseason, and I'm not off his train necessarily. I'd rather have McLaurin. I'd rather have, all those guys, DK. Like it's not even close to me. Whereas I was taking, Parker in that range, no longer. Marquise Brown or Parker, tough. But either way, what if he does regress and it just disappears? Preston would probably become that number one. And if he's playing that big-bodied Brandon Marshall style role, there is definitely 10 touchdown upside. There's definitely 80, 90 catch upside. And all the reports, unguardable in practice. Byron Jones, their number one free agent acquisition, the highest paid player on the team. Williams is making him look silly, I guess, in camp. Like this is something you got to pay attention to, because this guy already had like 400 yards, 3 touchdowns over the first half of last year, was kind of emerging as a potential number one there. You gotta bump up Preston Williams for your bench. And the last 2 notes I have here, and then again, keep your questions coming in. Happy to answer them all. Chris Carson back to 100%, they're saying, ready to shoulder the load. So to me, that kind of gives you a nice fallback. If you miss on Jonathan Taylor, who again now has a late first round or late second rounder, risky though. If you want the safer third rounder, Chris Carson would be your guy. I mean, this guy last year was an RB1 or 2 in 86% of his games. He just was force-fed 18-plus touches a week. I think he saw 18 or plus touches on 86% of his games, and he was an RB2 in all of them or better. So the guy is just like that pounding heartbeat, whether we want it to be Russ Cook or not, it isn't. They're going to continue to pound Carson for like 20 a game. I think, Hyde, does he worry me a little bit? Okay, a little bit, but not enough to bump Carson down. They're saying Hyde will probably play that penny role. So it'll be a nice like 70, 60, 65 to 35 or 40 so split in Carson's favor. I think he's just another great season of like 80 yards and a TD. That great, safe, reliable 15 to 20 points a week from your RB2 that you can get in round 3. So that gives you the flexibility to take a Hopkins if you really love him, or an Evans, a Godwin, and still know if you don't love Taylor, if you think he's too risky, Carson's a nice little kind of pulsing heartbeat style RB2 for you. And if you go RB, you get yourself a locked in, number 3 flex that's going to, again, get you 18 points a week is great. I love having him, especially if I go like Clyde Edwards-Helaire early, for example. As much as I love Helaire, he's one of the riskier guys of the first round. So Carson gives you that flexibility. Or if I go Taylor as my RB2 and like I can get Carson, RB3, RB. That's a way you could kind of go, Saquon, Taylor, Carson, and then load up on wide receivers. That's a potential team makeup right there. I have him just above, the risk of James Conner. Conner has the higher ceiling, but I like me some Carson just a little bit more. And the last note before, again, open mailbag, whatever questions you guys have, I'm happy to answer till we're done. Jalen Reagor update week to week. So better news than like season's over. Expected to probably miss the first 2 to 3 weeks. So that sends Deshaun Jackson. Let's show you kind of where these guys fell out for me. Jackson, rips up right here to 86 overall. I wouldn't have David Johnson this low. I don't know why he's gone that bad. Because he's not. He is horrible. I never want to own David Johnson, but I'd have him above these guys for sure. I think this running back tier kind of fell in my rankings for some reason. They should be right in this range. So let's get these guys back up. Sometimes the syncs are weird, ladies and gents. But Deshaun Jackson, he's going to be that main guy for those, however long he holds up for those first few weeks. He's like Washington. I mean, the early season schedule was a joke. So I think you're getting like 3 straight 20-plus point Djax days to start your season, whether he keeps it going all year or not. What if that, lightning just keeps striking? It could, for as long as he's healthy. And he goes at pick 160 on average. So, he's one of the guys I'm highest on out of anybody. I think he's the ultimate late round pick, especially to give you upside, but also comes with a decent floor for as ever long as he's healthy. He's not just this unknown that we're banking on. He had 35 points in week 1 last year. I think he does that again this year against the same Redskins team. He gets a big bump up. Now, where does Reagor go for me? He's falling around 14 right now, which blows my absolute mind. He fell to 111 for me, so I still significantly higher on Reagor than most. I get you're going to have to wait, but like round 15, you're stashing guys anyways. You're not using a round 15 pick. So why not stash the guy that was burning Darius Slay deep, that was thriving on fades, was winning on the red zone drills, was winning over the middle of the field with bodies draped all over him, making ridiculous acrobatic catches, screens, everything. The guy was the alpha until he went down. It reminds me of that Odell Beckham rookie season, right, where he was dominating camp in every single facet, and then he goes down. Nobody drafts him, but the people that were patient or picked him up in week 3 end up winning their leagues. Like that could be Jalen Reagor. I'm not saying it will be. That's predicting a once in a lifetime style season, but that's the type of mindset you should have yourself in because of the reports we were seeing and what he was doing on the field before going down. Absolutely. Like, who else are you stashing in round 12, 13, 14? Come on. It definitely makes sense. I love owning them both if possible. Is the way I'm attacking that. And let me just make sure for notes I have here. We already covered Evans, Godwin, Alvin Kamara. Everything has been covered. So that's pretty much it. So whatever you guys have for me at that point, but that's the rankings update here. D. Henry and T. Boyd for D. Adams and Ingram got good depth at receiver, but poor RBs. Do I take this? So are you giving up Henry? Because if so, no. I'd much rather have the Henry and Boyd side is the one that I side with. So if you're giving up Adams and Ingram, then I say yes, smash that is what I would say. Because I have Henry as a higher first rounder, and I have Boyd as a higher like mid rounder. So to me, you're winning that trade. As you say, Mitchell, you're giving up Adams. So yeah, I would slam that one, especially if you have poor RBs. No doubt about it. Towards meniscus climbing into bed in college and legs feed the wolf. True. So yeah, that's worth considering for sure, Tunes. You're right. But I think he'll be fine. Carson gets no love, says DiLorenzo. I agree. Like, definitely deserve it. He's also a power back who has had AC joint injury. So just, yeah, I guess it's it's important to note Moss does have some real some injury concerns. Recent mocks have been seeing Zeke, Kamara, Cook, and CEH often being available at 5. Can you rank them for me? Zeke is my guy. Like Zeke is the no-brainer. I think you're PPR, right, Toon? So I still have Clyde at 4. There is some risk because they're starting to say Tyrell Williams might be forcing a committee. I don't know that I buy that. It's never been a committee system when it doesn't have to be. And all the reports are that Hilaire's been great. So why would he be involved unless he's that much better as a pass protector? So maybe early, but I think Hilaire's upside's the highest of them. So I go Zeke, I go Hilaire. I have a Henry after those guys, and then I go Cook. Kamara is not even in my radar in the top 5 or so at this point. Would you keep Eckler in the 4th or Lamar in the 10th? Ooh. That is a tough one because the upside of Lamar in 10 is just, I mean, he does what he does last year and you're still getting that nice QB discount, but like I just love workhorses and I have Eckler number 9 overall. You're gaining more value technically, with Lamar. I have him like 27 overall. You're getting him for 100. So you're gaining about 80 picks, whereas Eckler, you're only gaining like 20, but you're gaining a potential 3-down bell cow horse. That's the most valuable commodity in fantasy football. I guess this one comes down to M. Hess is what type of running backs do you think you'd be left with after if you didn't keep Eckler? Like, would you be able to get Eckler again and then another RB, quality 3-down back? If not, if all the bell cows are being kept and gone, then I say you keep Eckler. But if you think you can get Lamar in the 10th and then still have a shot at going bell cow, and landing 2 good quality workhorses, then I think you send Eckler packing and you keep Lamar and you lock in 2 bell cows plus Lamar and then whatever receivers you can load up with in the mid rounds. So to me, to answer that question, I think it depends on what running backs were going to be available. But the higher upsides with Lamar, if you can get 2 bell cows. If you have no shot at it, then you have to keep Eckler. Should I trade Chubb for Gurley? No. Baked goldfish. You're a little too baked goldfish. Chubb is going to lead the league in rushing. Like, come on. No. Don't do that. Gurley's got the need. Like, the Atlanta upside offense, I get it, but like Cutter's never used a workhorse over his last 10 years calling plays. We had like one anomaly Doug Martin season, and Gurley's running around with burst and everything. It's Gurley. You just kind of like, you feel gross. Whereas Chubb in that new zone blocking scheme, should I be worried about Hunt? Sure, of course. Hunt's going to catch the ball, but Hunt, at least, that he's going to thrive. That's the Dalvin Cook system that we saw facilitate that monster. I think Chubb's the best pure runner in the league. Like, I don't want to overthink the Chubb thing. I know he's a risk because he doesn't get the receptions. So in PPR leagues, yeah, he falls a bit, but I still think, able to run for 15 to 1,600 yards and 12 touchdowns is going to be worth its own weight too. I got picks 2 and 19. Should I try to trade up to 12 and take Eckler? Not sure if I want a wide receiver. So I got picks 2 and 19. So it depends what you're giving up to get up to 12. But yeah, I mean, I love Eckler. So yes, like I probably would too. Is Miles Sanders' ABP too high? I don't think so. I get the ultimate worry with the hamstring going on right now, right? But if Fournette didn't go there, thank God. He's dodging all the bullets. I wonder if AP land. It sucks that we can't just go into drafts being like, yep, we're all good. As today shows, there are some people like Antonio Gibson who could shoot up 7 rounds, and there's guys who could come crashing down. So no, I don't think Miles Sanders' ADP is too high. I'm going to take off the big board because we've done through all the rankings. If you guys want me to pull it back up to see anybody specifically, let me know. But again, any of those, it's a matter of preference of those workhorses, right? Any of those top 14 guys belong in the top 14 overall spot. If you can get 2 of those guys, you have to. So would I rather have Mixon, Eckler, some safer guys? Sure. But ultimately, if Sanders is your guy, you got to go with the bell cows. So no, I do not think Miles Sanders is too high. T.Y. Hilton for DK. I want DK on that baked goldfish. So if you're getting DK, then yes. If you're getting Hilton, no. You're still too baked. Jerick McKinnon or Joshua Kelly, full PPR. Thanks. Definitely in full PPR, and probably anyways, I would go Jerick McKinnon. He is my play. I just love this guy. The lead third down back on an offense that wants to pepper the running backs. They haven't because they haven't had the guy to do it to, but that's why they signed McKinnon. Kyle Shanahan lost himself watching the film of Jerick McKinnon just a couple off seasons ago, and apparently he's back to that full health, like exploding all over the field. Beat writers saying he might lead the team in 20-plus yard receptions. Everything's coming up McKinnon. And then you add in the fact that what if he does take over the early down role? So you lock in third down work, going to be standalone value on that alone. And then you potentially say this guy only has to beat out Mostert and Coleman. I like Mostert, good player, great fit for the zone scheme, but it's not like he's impossible to beat out. So I love everything McKinnon brings to value. He's probably my single most drafted player because he goes at like pick 200. And I have him in my top 100. So McKinnon's my guy there. And I like Kelly. There's plenty of cases to be made for Kelly, especially if Justin Jackson's injury lingers. Then that would flip this question. But until we know more about Justin Jackson, what he's sitting out with, unless Josh Kelly gets that role on lock, it might be like they're both behind Eckler in the first place, and they just kind of alternate for Eckler's scraps. I don't want alternating for Eckler's scraps. So I go for Jerick McKinnon, a higher upside role potentially. Alrighty, folks, that's all the questions. That's all my updates. So thanks so much for tuning in to our big board update. Obviously, hit me up for your Labor Day, needs. If you have any questions before draft day, I'll do my best to get them. I do want to pump out, last kind of call here before drafts hit. If you go to rotostreetjournal.com/Frades, to donate and get your guide. It's free as long as you give a donation to a great cause. Our off-season Bible with breakdowns on so many players. We've updated it live throughout camp. I'll try to get more and more updated into the weekend because all this news is flying crazy. But check it out. Support if you want to support us. We're not behind any paywalls. We don't want to be, but we would love to raise money for a great cause. So consider donating to that. And just check out the Fantasy Fullback Dive anywhere you listen to podcasts, ffbdpod.com for all our show notes and past episodes. It will help you pave your path to 2020 titles. RotoStreetJournal.com. We breed and feed fantasy wolves as well. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm at RotoStreetWolf. If you caught the replay, thanks so much as well. Best of luck in your drafts this weekend. Until next time, enjoy your Labor Day weekends. The Wolf is out.